Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for the session today. Your participation means a lot to us at Manage Engine. Before I begin the session, do let me know if you're able to hear me, because if you can all hear me, then we can proceed with the session. We've been having a little trouble here, so we just want to confirm if you can hear me loud and clear. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm Megha and I'm from the AD Solutions team at Manage Engine. And so this is going to be our fifth and last workshop session of the series. Over the last 4 sessions, we saw various topics on effective Active Directory management using the tool AD Manager Plus. So in session 1, we saw how to create accounts in Active Directory, that is 360-degree user provisioning. Apart from Active Directory accounts, we can enable Link, Exchange Mailbox, and Office 365 in your environment without having to use complex scripts like VB or PowerShell. So that was what we covered in session 1. In sessions 2, we saw how to modify users. And when we say user modification, we talked about reset password, group membership modification, how do you manage permissions, how do you move users from one OU to another, and so on and so forth, right? And we also saw some topics, use cases where, let's say you want to move your home folders when you're decommissioning your file servers. How do you delete users? How do you restore delete users? And so overall, we saw how to do modification of Active Directory objects using the bulk modification feature as well as the CSV file. And in session 3, we spoke about reports. How do you receive crucial information of Active Directory with just a few mouse clicks and perform on-the-fly Active Directory management right from reports. So we saw how do you find inactive users, how do you find nested group memberships, inappropriate permissions cleanup, and so on. And in the previous session, that is the session 4, we saw how to delegate tasks in Active Directory and how to implement an Active Directory workflow. So you create customized roles in your application and then map it to users in Active Directory securely. And in workflow, we saw, let's say if you want to implement a request and an approval based methodology, instead of users performing the actions directly by logging onto Active Directory, you have an option to enable the users to raise a request, and then you as an administrator can review and approve the request. So that was a summary of the topics that we covered in session 1 to 4. In session 5, we are going to focus on automation. And let me give you the agenda for today's session. Right, so in automation, we are going to start with automating user provisioning process. For instance, the HR enters simple details such as the first name, the last name, and stores a file in the network. And using the automation feature in AD Manager Plus, the tool will read the file in the network location and then create accounts in Active Directory on a stipulated date and time. Right, so that is the first topic that we'll be covering. So the second task is cleanup. Now, how do you find inactive users in your domain, and how do you separate them from active users, and how you perform a permission cleanup for security reasons? So all this can be automated using our automation feature. The next thing we'll be seeing is how do you provide temporary access to users to business data. So you might have users requesting access to specific application, and you as administrators add those users to a specific security group. Now the problem arises when you forget to revoke the permissions that you granted, and as days goes by, the permissions that a normal user in Active Directory has goes out of balance. So we're going to see an automated way where you can assign and revoke group memberships. And while talking about provisioning user accounts using automation feature, we will also be seeing about the MS SQL and Oracle databases and other integrations that we support, which will allow you to automatically create, modify, and delete accounts in Active Directory. And also we can see how you can streamline your I monitor your AD logs with the help of integration with some SIM tools. We'll see what are the tools that we'll be supporting, and we can also we also support iOS and Android AD Manager Plus app, and you can go ahead and install those apps and try them out. So those apps will give you a bunch of features where you can manage AD on the go. So that is a summary of today's agenda. So let's go ahead and log into the application. For those of who you have who have a tester setup of AD Manager Plus in your environment, you can go ahead and use it. But if you don't have an installation, we have a setup online. So if you've been using that setup, you can go ahead and use the credentials. But I will be sharing it right here again. So I request you to take a look at the chat window, and I have shared I will be sharing the URL, the username, password, and the authentication. Right. So I hope you can see that. So the URL is http :// workshop.admanagerplus.com, and the username is workshop-user in lowercase. Password is work at 123, and the authentication that you have to select is AD solution. Right. So you can go ahead and then try out the applications, or at least get a feel of the product and the features that we will be covering today. Right, so that's that. Now let's go ahead and log in so I have the setup here. So for today's session, now before I begin today's session, if you have any questions during the session, please don't hesitate to ask. We have a dedicated tech person right here, so you can just go ahead and post the questions, and he'll be answering them right away. So if there are any yes. So let me begin the session. For today's session, we'll be going to the automation module. So on the top section, you have the home, AD management, AD reports, Office 365, AD delegation, workflow. We covered this in the first four sessions. Now we have the automation module, the one that I have highlighted. So just click that. And once you click that, this is the UI. And you can see two options here on the left hand side. I've highlighted it. It is automation and automation policy. So the first task is going to be automating user provisioning process. So what we're going to do is we have clicked automation, and on the top right hand side you have an option called create new automation. So we're going to click that. Right. So the first task is going to be creating users. So you can give a suitable name. Let's say we're going to create users for IT department. So I'm going to enter a name here, and you can add a description as well. Now, right below you have an option called automation category. Now you have multiple categories right here. If you click on the drop down list, that is the user, automation, computer, group, contact, automations that are listed here. So today we're going to focus on user automation. So you select user automation from the drop down list. And what is the action that you're going to do? So here we have tasks to automate. So under that, you click the drop down list, and what we're going to do, we're going to create users. So you have the option right here, the option number 1. Click that. And then once you select that, you have the option of selecting a template and a CSV file. Right. So what we can do is I have already created a template for IT, so you can go ahead and select that. Now, we did cover quite a bit about templates in the first few sessions. We did cover it in the first session about user creation template, in the second session about in user modification template, and we did take a look into templates a little bit yesterday. But if you're new to the session, let me take you through the template that I created here. So I'm going to leave this for now, and then I will take you to the template section and then explain the layout of the template and how you can make use of the features that are available there. So, under AD management, you have user management and then user creation templates. So you can see that there are a list of templates that are created here. You have no restrictions. You can create any number of templates that you want. So this is the template that I created, the one that I've highlighted. It is template for IT. So I'm just going to click that and then show you the options that I have enabled for today's task. So yes, what I have done here is I have assigned a name format. So we saw how you can do that. You can just go ahead and select, let's say you want the user's logon name to follow a specific naming format like first name dot last name or last name dot first name. You can go ahead and then set it from these options right here. Similarly, you can do a similar actions for log on name, the SAM account name, full name, as well as the display name. So that is an option. So I have just selected one particular of naming format here, which is first initials and last name. And you can type in a common password, so you can do that in the account tab. So I have just gone ahead and then set a manual password rather than using the other options. I have gone ahead with the manual way of entering the password and then confirming it. And in the in the member of tab, you can go ahead and then add different groups that this particular user has to be a part of. See, we are creating a user for, or a bunch of users for IT department. So you can just go ahead and then click this edit icon right here next to the member of field, and then select the groups that you want this particular user to be a part of, relevant IT groups. So that's that. And then, all right, so you can also go ahead and then set your contact attributes or terminal services attributes or any of that. And you can just save the template right here. So that's that. So now let's say you want to delegate certain tabs to a user, say HR or help desk. So depending on the roles, the template can be customized. For example, if you're going to delegate this template to the HR, then the HR might not need the Exchange or Terminal Services tab or any of the advanced configuration tabs. So maybe he can be given access to just the General tab, the Account tab, and the Contact tab with the relevant fields or attributes. And then the most significant or the most important ones can be removed, and then we can just give some basic attributes for the HR to be filled and then send it across to the IT administrator. Now, you know how to do that. We did cover that in the first session. We can just go ahead and then delete a particular attribute, or you can go ahead and then remove a tab as such. Let me just show that particular option once again. So I click the template that I created. So you have the option right here, the one that I've highlighted, which is the enable drag and drop. So if you want to, let's say, delete terminal services tab, you do not want the HR to enter any details here, you can go ahead and then delete it. Or you want to set any particular attribute as mandatory, all you have to do is hover over that particular attribute. You get a drop down box and you hit edit. Under that, you have an option called make it under security, called make it mandatory. You can set that. You can also prevent duplicates. So you do not want any duplicates in the logon name. Then you can go ahead and then prevent duplicates option. So we did cover quite a bit of this in our first session. So you would be receiving the video recordings as well. So if you have any questions when you're performing any of these features in the tool, you can go ahead and then refer that particular video for let's say if you have any doubts, you can just go ahead and refer that, or if you have any questions, you can also write to us, to our support team, and we would be glad to help you as in that case. Right, so that's about template. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use this template for our automation. Now there are two things that we need to know when it's about automated user provisioning. So one was creating a template, which we did just now, and the second one is creating a CSV file. Now for a CSV file, all you need to do is create a CSV file using a notepad and just do LDAP headers such as a first name and last name. And in case of LDAP headers, it should be given name and SN. So if you want to find out the list of attributes that are supported by AD Manager Plus, you do have an option called Help on the top right corner, the one that I've highlighted. Just click that and this will lead you to the help document of a product. And under that on the LHS, you have an option called CSV import. And you click that, and the first option, that is create users using CSV, you click that, and then you get a link called list of LDAP attributes supported. So once you click that, this will give you the names in AD and their corresponding LDAP headers. So you can refer this while creating CSV file, and this will give you the list of most attributes and their LDAP name. So for a basic user creation, we will have all important details like the first name, the last name, the email address, and rest of the attributes. So contact attributes, you can find that here. So you can make use of this help doc right here. And also if you have any other doubts for user provisioning or modification or any of the topics, you can just go ahead and make use of this extensive list of help doc documents that we have. And yes, so we were in automation. So now that the creation is done, you once again click on the automation tab, create new automation here on the top right. Now once again, just like templates, you have no restrictions on the number of the automation that you can create. Just go ahead and then create routines, automation routines for any number of tasks that you want of any nature, right? So we can enter a suitable automation name. Right. So under the automation category, like I said, we are going to create users. So the option user automation would be appropriate. And under automation task and policy, we're going to click on create users. So under that, we are going to select the template that we just created. And here, this is where we will be talking about the multiple options we have to fetch the data for user creation. So you can see the drop down arrow right next to it. So underneath that, when you click on that, you have a list of options. That is data from CSV. So in this case, if you are having a particular CSV file containing the user's first name, last name, and some basic attributes and their corresponding values, you can just go ahead and enter the location of where the CSV file is stored in this particular format. So just enter the server name in this particular format, and then the share name and the folder, right? So that is one particular option that we offer. Another one is data from MS SQL Server, data from Oracle, right? Now, if you have integrated, we do have an option of integrating AD Manager Plus with your MS SQL Server or the Oracle database. So let's say you have applications, HR applications, which are running on these databases. So whatever details that you are entering there will get stored in the database. And as and when the data is modified in the database, whatever, let's say you're adding some new users, a bunch of users are being added. So this particular tool will fetch uh, the new details that has been added, records that has been added to the database, and it will automatically provision Active Directory accounts for those users. So that's how you can make your user provisioning easier. So rather than entering a bunch of users into a CSV file and then getting the file share, the server, the location, and then finally the tool will fetch the data from the CSV file. This is much easier because if you're using the HR application and which is running on these two databases, then you can go ahead and then use the integration option that we offer. And also this is a very new feature that we a very recent feature, it just came out last week, that is integration with Zoho People and Workday. So let's say you're using one of these tools, and if you're entering user details in Zoho People or Workday, every time a new data is entered, the tool AD Manager Plus will automatically fetch those user details and then provision Active Directory accounts. So since we are on the topic of user creation, I didn't mention about the modification and deletion feature. Now this similarly applies to modification and deletion as well. Let's say you're deleting an account from a user data from Zoho People or from Workday, then automatically the Active Directory account which has been provisioned will also get removed. So if you're removing or if you're modifying a field in MS SQL, let's say you're updating the contact attributes of a particular user. So whatever changes that happens is stored in the database, and that change will be fetched by the tool, and that will be and whatever change has happened will be reflected in Active Directory account. So that is a really useful feature. So this just helps you simplify things. So we did have the CSV. So if you would like to go ahead with the good old traditional method of entering a bunch of users and in a CSV file with their LDAP at headers and their corresponding value, then you can just go ahead and enter the location right here. Also, when you enable this particular option, so what happens is if you're having a CSV file in one particular location and you're not going to create multiple CSV file, instead you're going to append the new users into the same CSV file, then the tool will fetch only the appended objects. So let's say you're creating a bunch of users this month and the two you're running this, you are creating an automation to fetch those users and then create Active Directory accounts. And the next month, when you enter new details into the CSV file, new user details into the CSV file, this, if you have set this automation to be run maybe next month at a frequency of let's say 30 days, then those new users alone will be detected, and then the Active Directory user provisioning will be taken care of by the tool automatically. So that is what this option is for. Now, all right, so here you can go ahead and set the execution time. Let's say you want a user provisioning to happen every month, then you can go ahead and then set that monthly. You can set the time that you want, or you can also select, let's say, a specific date, like on the first of every month at this particular time, let's say 10 a.m., I want this particular automation to run. So that can be done under the execution time section, right? And you can also enable automation, so any notification. So if you want the technician or the administrator to be notified every time an automation executes, then you can go ahead and then enable notification feature, right? And if you're concerned about leaving the user creation part to an application, that is, you want to review the request that has been raised by the tool for user creation and then approve it so that the users get created in Active Directory, then you can check enable this particular option. You have an option called implement business workflows. So you can go ahead and check this. So once that is enabled, the users who are configured in the workflow will be notified that the tool has raised a request for user creation. And if you feel, that is, you as an administrator feel that there is no modification required in the user accounts, then you just click create and user accounts will be created in Active Directory. Right. So that is a simple example of how you can make user provisioning process a really easy task. Now that we have covered user provisioning, the next topic, what we're going to see in automation is stale account cleanup. So, how do you identify stale accounts in Active Directory and how do you remove them sequentially? Right. So, under automation, we on the LHS we have two links. One is the automation and the automation policy. So, for the stale account cleanup, we'll be making use of the automation policy. So just click that option, the one that I've highlighted. Right, so on the top right corner, you have create new automation policy. I've highlighted that option. Just click that. Right, so under new automation policy, what we are going to do is, uh, let's just create a name for it now. Let's say you want to clean up inactive users. So I have an appropriate title so that I can identify that. And what we are going to do is, the first thing is we are going to set divide this process into three stages. First thing is I'm going to identify the inactive users who have not logged in for say 120 days, and then move them to a separate OU. Right, so let's keep aside the inactive users part. What we're going to do is, in the automation policy, we're going to configure the steps that are required to isolate and remove those inactive users. So the first thing is moving those inactive users into to a different container. So under instant tasks, you have something called move users. So you select that and you have an option to choose a container. So you click on the edit icon and this will bring up the OU tree in your organization, in your domain. So you can just move them to, let's say, inactive users or stale accounts or any OU that you want. Just go ahead and then click OK. Now, let's say now that you have moved the users to a different OU, what you can do is you can set another task. So right under the instant task, you have an option called add successive tasks. So click that. And let's say after 5 days, I want to move these users, the users that are in a different OU, I want to remove their group membership. So let's say after 5 days after this particular task is executed, that is after these users have been moved to a different OU, I'm going to remove from group. Right. So when you choose when you select this particular option, you have an option to clear all the group memberships, or you can just go ahead and then click this particular option here. This will list all the groups and you can manually go and select the groups that you want to remove the group memberships you want to clean up. You can go ahead and set that, or you can just make your task really simple. And let's say you want to strip all the group memberships, then you can just click on clear all existing group memberships. Right. Now, after the second step, I can add another successive task, which is, let's say I'm going to wait for another 7 days after this particular task is done, and I'm going to disable those user accounts. I don't want to delete them right away. I would like to take this in a sequential manner. So I first move the users to a different OU, then I strip them of their group memberships, and after 7 days, and I disable those users. And the final task that we're going to add is, let's say after 30 days, I delete those users. So you have a delete users option right here. And this is the sequence that this particular policy is going to take. So we'll identify the inactive users and then move them to a different OU. After 5 days, I remove from all group memberships. After 7 days, I disable those users. And after 30 days, I will delete them. So this is the policy. I am going to save this. So in order to execute the policy, right, so this is the policy that we just created, inactive users cleanup. Now to execute it, I have an option called automation. So I click on automation and I'm going to create a new automation here, right? So on the top right corner, you have an option to create new automation. So I can give inactive users cleanup, right? Now here, this is where we are going to define the input. So I need to tell the application to find out the list of users who have not logged into the application for say 120 days. So the task is user automation, the category is user automation, and under tasks to automate, I have, what we're going to do is we're going to select the automation policy that we just created. So once you click this particular drop down, you have select tasks and then select automation policy. So under automation policy, we have the option that we just created here, the policy stale accounts cleanup. Select that, and here, this is where we're going to define the input, right? So click on select option right here, and under general, you have a bunch of users, but we want inactive users. So you can find inactive users under log on reports. So click inactive users and you can enter 120 days here. And you also have two other options here. You can also exclude disable users and exclude never logged on users. So you can go ahead and then refine this, and you can also add certain conditions here just to refine the results. So I'm just going to go ahead with this particular filter right here. So just give OK. And here I can go ahead and set the execution frequency and then interval. Let's say I want to run this particular, so it's a cleanup, so it will not happen really often. So we can just say, let's give this a month, make it a monthly thing, or you can go ahead and also set your custom time period right here in when you click on more. So I'm going to make it a monthly thing, and on first I want it to run at 10 a.m. in the morning. And like we saw earlier, you can enable an automation, enable a notification, and then hit save. So if you hit save and run, what happens is this particular automation and the policy that you've configured will take into effect immediately, and then it'll wait for another month before performing this particular action. So for now, I just hit save, and this particular automation will be recorded. Now in the same automation feature, so what we had two options. So while providing the input, we had the option of choosing from the list of reports. We also have another option here. So you can see something called select more. So click that, and you can also give a CSV file containing all the users. Let's say you have a bunch of inactive users, and you have all of them in a CSV file. All you can do is just enter the SAM account name of all the users, and then store them in a particular location, and then give the location right here, and then execute it. So either you can do that, or you can You can choose from the list of reports, or also you can choose from the users in a CSV file, right? So that is another option. So again, once again, you can also implement the business workflow here, just in case you want to make sure that this particular action is carried out, uh, with supervision, and then nothing goes wrong. You can implement the business workflow. And like we saw in the topic yesterday, under workflow, you have an option called all requests, and under that, so you have an option called workflow, and under that you have an option called all requests. So every time an automation is if you have implemented a business workflow in automation, you can just go ahead and then select the particular users. Right, I can see that some of you are having problems with the audio. uh, can you hear me now? I just want to know if you can. I just want to confirm. So I can see that some of you have said that you're facing issues with the audio. Right. Am I audible to you guys? Can you please say a yes or a no? Right. I'm really sorry this is happening. We do not know why this is. We've been experiencing trouble with the tool for quite some time now. All right. All right. So I can see most of you are saying that it's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead. Right. Okay. So what we'll do is, if you have missed out the audio at some point, do not worry. This session is being recorded, and this will have the audio and the video working just fine. If that's the case, so if you we would be anyway sending the videos to you guys, so you can also take a look at it later. But I'm really sorry that this is happening to some of you guys. So can I just proceed with the topics? Please let me know. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Right. So yes, so I'm going to go ahead. So I kind of lost track of where I was. So what we saw was, if you're implementing a business workflow in an automation, you can just uh, go ahead and then review those tasks, and then hold on. Let me just take that particular action once again. Right. So if you're choosing this implement business workflow action, so all of this will be recorded in the workflow all request section. So, and as a technician or an administrator, you can go ahead and then log in to that, and then check the status of that particular automation. And then if you find that the user creation process can go ahead, and then it has absolutely no issues at all, you can go ahead and then create the users. So that is one big feature that we have incorporated in automation, right? All right. So that is now another feature that I want to bring to your notice is, so this is the once you click automation, you have an option called inactive users. Like, let's say it lists all the automations that you've created, and what is the type criteria, what is the policy, and you have something called execution history. Right, so it's on the top right. Sorry, it's right next to the run now option. So when you click on that, it will show the status of the automation. And so this doesn't show the automation status yet, because we have not run this particular automation. So otherwise, what it would show is, it will show you the status of the automation with the exact timestamp. So even if the automation fails, you will be able to find out the exact reason for the failure as well. Right. So that is another feature. Now we'll see another use case, that is, you as an administrator will receive requests from users for accessing certain applications. So you assign them to certain groups for a temporary basis. So that also can be done using automation policy. And let's say you want to assign them to certain top level security groups, but then we forget to revoke the access most of the time. So adding users to certain groups and then removing them from those groups after time of like a period of time can be automated. So once again, we'll make use of the automation policy, right? So once you click that, it's very similar to the inactive users cleanup policy that we did. So on the top right corner, we have create new automation policy. So just click that and you can just set a task. So we're adding users to groups and then removing those users from those groups, right? So under user automation, so this is a user automation. So the task is going to be add to group. So here you can go ahead, click on the plus sign and then add the specific groups that you want the users to be a part of. And you can add a successive task. So let's say I want these users to access those groups for, let's say, a week and not more than that. So you can set, let's say, after 7 days, you can select the task, remove from group, and you can choose the particular group that you gave here, right? So once you do that, you hit save, right? So I'm just going to for just a sample, just for today's session, I'm going to enter a group name, right? So I'm adding them to this group, and then after 7 days, I'm removing those users from that group. So I have given that, right? So I just enter a name and I hit save. So this is very similar to the cleanup that we performed. Now that we have created a policy, you have to go to automation and create a new automation here on the top right corner. Click that. And once again, you can set a suitable name. Now under automation task and policy, select the policy that I just created. So you can either select the users from a particular report, or you can give a CSV file containing the users. So you can just do that and then set your preferred execution time and then save it, right? So we just saw 3 use cases, one about user creation and the cleanup, and as well as giving temporary access to permissions to certain groups, right? So similarly, you can do many such actions. You can reset password, you can unlock users. Say you have service accounts and you do not want them to be locked out. So I go to AD reports and then let's say I can choose locked out users and then I hit OK. So that way you can perform any number of actions. So similarly, under computer automation, you have a bunch of tasks. Under contact, under group, there are a lot of pre-configured tasks that you can go ahead and then perform from the automation module, right? So we saw about 3 main use cases which you can perform using automation module. And I also said that you can this integrations with the HRMS applications like these Zoho People and Workday and MS SQL and Oracle databases is not restricted to just user creation. So if you're performing any sort of modification or if you're deleting user accounts in those environments as well, then automatically AD Manager Plus will detect that particular change and then make those changes in AD as well. Say you're deleting a user account, then the AD account will also be deleted, right? So let me take you through the integrations page. Once again, I'll show you where you can configure that. So next to automation, you have something called the admin. So just click that. So you'll find the integration option and where you can configure MS SQL, Oracle, the databases, the HRMS applications like Zoho People and Workday and all those. You can configure them right here. So on the LHS, you have something called personalize, and under that you have a section called integrations. So that's the one that I've highlighted. So you can click that, and that's where you can go ahead and then configure the settings for all these applications. So this is where we you can see the section database, right? So that's where we'll be you can just go ahead and then click on any of these, and if you're using any of these tools you can integrate them with our product. Just go ahead and then configure like server name, the username, password, and then just go ahead and then start using that particular feature, right? So while we are on the subject of integrations, we do support integrations with products like Syslog and Splunk. So let's say you want to get an audit trail of all the AD actions as well as reports for meeting key industry standards. You can forward all these AD logs to your SIM application. So if you use Syslog or Splunk as your SIM solution, just integrate AD Manager Plus with that, and you can automatically forward AD logs of all the actions carried out using AD Manager Plus to your SIM software for detail analysis, right? So integrating will help you strengthen the enterprise security. And what you can do is, if you enable this particular option, you can identify unauthorized creation and modification of user accounts, computers, groups, or detect any patterns in modification made to privileged accounts, security groups, etc. And you can also obtain an audit trail for all the actions performed on AD objects using AD Manager Plus, and you can generate reports to meet the compliance regulations like the GDPR, the HIPAA, the SOX, the PCI, and more, right? So that is another feature that we support. And right, so we also have uh, an option to, we also, like I mentioned at the beginning, we do have Android and iOS mobile apps. So you can find the links right here. So on the home page, on the right hand side, under inside AD Manager Plus, right, there's an app option called AD Manager Plus mobile apps. So underneath that, you have the Android app and the iPhone app. So these links will lead you to the Play Store app, the Play Store, and the here you can download these apps, and also you can perform some important actions like reset password, unlock users, group management, and all that on the go, right? So you can go ahead and then check these apps out. If it'll help you to manage your AD Manager Plus when you're not around, when you're not in your environment, you could just go ahead and then configure it and then test this particular app, right? So in today's session, we saw how to automate user provisioning, clean up, and provide temporary access. I mean, provide and then revoke access to group memberships on a temporary basis, right? So before I end the session, I have also another important announcement to make. So we have a seminar coming up in the US. So if you are in the following cities like Los Angeles or Houston or Atlanta, we have US seminars happening in November in these cities. So I will be sharing a link here, right? So this is where you'll get the details of the event. So I have just please do check your chat window. So this is the registration link. So let me tell you a little bit about our presenters. So we have Derek Melber, who's our Active Directory MVP. He has more than 15 years experience. on presenting on all the latest trends in AD and IT security. We also have a support. We also have a technical evangelist who's Vivin Satyan. So he'll be handling on topics on IAM and IT security as well. He has been a part of Manage Engine, and then he has extensively traveled and then presented in a lot of conferences and seminars. So these are our two main presenters for the day, right? So I also want to bring to your notice that we have an exclusive early bird offer right now for the seminar registrations. So if you're registering early, you would get a 50% off on the tickets. And if you have any doubts, you can just please go ahead and then click on that link, and this will give you more details on the dates when these seminars are happening. And if you want to register for them, you want to see the agenda, everything, this link would be of help. So again, if you're from the cities like Los Angeles, Houston, and Atlanta, you can go ahead and then make use of our session, right? So with that, I would like to conclude our today's session and AD Manager Plus series, right? So please let me know if you have any questions, and then I will address them as soon as possible. Also, when you end the session, you will be prompted with a feedback form. Kindly fill the form and submit it, and then give your uh, honest feedback so that we can make our forthcoming sessions better and more informative for you. So once again, I thank you for the overwhelming responses that we have received throughout the series. All your suggestions have been taken into account and will be implemented in our forthcoming sessions. So thank you all. Have a good day.